What's up, everyone? My name is Ale. Welcome back to my world of stocks. So, going into every new year, I like to list off for you guys my favorite dividend stocks for that year. And for 2022, I'm going to list off for you guys today my top 7 favorite dividend stocks for the long term. Now, some of these stocks I already own myself, some of them I do not own yet, but I can tell you that it is very likely that I will be buying all of these throughout the year. And by the way, if you guys feel like the stock market is a little too expensive right now, or if you think there's going to be some volatility throughout 2022, maybe a decent sized correction heading our way, which by the way, I wouldn't really disagree with you guys. I've made videos sharing similar thoughts and feelings. Well, hey, when prices go down, dividend yields actually go up. So these are still some great stocks. Even if you don't buy them, there's still some great stocks to add onto your watch list. Keep an eye on them. And then if the market falls, well, that would just make these stocks even better buys at that time. But I actually chose some stocks here that have already fallen a lot. I've chosen a variety of stocks. Some are trading high, but some are trading very low. Some have been falling and crashing for a while. Some have some smaller yields. Some have some already very high dividend yields. And I just think that there's really something in here for everyone. So I really like these stocks. Like I said, these are my 7 favorite as of right now at today's prices. I really like all of these, but as always, make sure you do your own research and make your own decisions. I'm not telling you to buy or sell anything. That's completely up to you. I'm just sharing my thoughts, and I hope you guys get some kind of value out of this. And if you do, then please consider hitting that like button because it really helps the channel and it means a lot to me. But with all that said, let's jump into this list because I can't wait to share with you guys my top 7 favorite dividend stocks for the long term. Let's get into it. Okay, so in no particular order, let's just count down from number 7 to keep it simple. And kicking things off here, I'm going to go ahead and start with a large biotech pharmaceutical company known as Bristol Myers Squibb, ticker symbol BMY. Now, thanks to huge acquisitions like the recent ones that they made in Celgene worth almost $75 billion, huge acquisition, that was in 2019, made another one in Myocardia for $13 billion in 2020, made another acquisition in Forbius that same year. Well, the result is that they've become one of the most recognized brands in cardiovascular, oncology, and immunology drugs and treatments. In fact, last year, Bristol Myers already owned 8 different blockbuster drugs, meaning each one of them sells at least $1 billion worth. And moving forward, the acquisitions have strengthened their pipeline to over 50 drugs in development across more than 40 different diseases. And the result has been skyrocketing sales for a pharmaceutical company that doesn't normally experience such high growth. Now, profits did take a hit from the acquisitions, but that's a temporary issue that will be more than made up for by the higher revenue over time. Despite the positives, though, investors are worried about the temporary hits to profitability, the added debt from the acquisitions, and looming expiration of certain patents in the future, and that's led to a stock price that has actually declined over the past 5 years and currently sits near the bottom of its 52-week range. Personally, though, I think the stock has been oversold for a long time, and considering that today's prices give them a dividend yield of 3.4% and a really low payout ratio of just about 26%, I think BMY is one of the best pharmaceutical dividend stocks available right now. I don't own it yet myself because I already own several other pharmaceutical stocks and I didn't want to get overly exposed to the sector. But considering everything that I've already mentioned, I definitely plan to start adding this stock to my portfolio throughout this year. All right, now I may not own Bristol Myers quite yet, but if you want a biotech dividend stock that I do already own myself, then look no further than Merck, ticker symbol MRK, coming in at stock number 6. Now, this is another giant pharmaceutical company with 6 blockbuster products in 2020, with their best-selling cancer drug Keytruda doing over $14 billion that year alone. And they've even got a massive pipeline of close to 100 different products already in either phase 2 or phase 3 trials for the future. The result has been strong financials with sales in the tens of billions of dollars, over 15% growth expected next year because of that pipeline, and a very nice dividend that has a low payout ratio under 50% while still yielding close to 4%, which by the way is at one of the highest levels in recent years, meaning that it's probably a great time to pick this one up. The stock tends to trade within this range of the 70s and 80s, So considering that it's currently in the low 70s, I'd say it's a great time to be adding this solid dividend payer for the long term. And that's exactly what I've been doing myself in recent months. All right, now if you're not too excited about pharmaceutical stocks, which is totally understandable, then how about a renewable energy dividend stock? I think we all know at this point that the future of energy is, very likely going to be renewable over the long term. In fact, Democrats' nearly $2 trillion Build Back Better plan calls for over $550 billion of spending just on climate change alone to move away specifically from fossil fuels, which is the largest amount of money ever spent on climate change in history. Well, it just so happens that Brookfield Renewable Partners, ticker symbol BEP, which is my pick for stock number 5, is one of the largest renewable energy companies in the world and also one that pays a very attractive dividend. They currently operate around 6,000 renewable energy plants around the world with over 20 gigawatts of generating capacity, and they're also one of the largest hydroelectric generators in the entire world. Personally, I would rather them be heavier on solar rather than hydro, just because I think that there will be more growth in solar. But overall, the business is pretty well diversified across several types of energy generation with huge expansion plans for the future that will add more solar over time. And the result should be very large cash flow growth over the coming years, probably between 10 to 20% a year, which also allows them to pay a very nice dividend that, because of a low stock price that recently dipped down to the bottom of their 52-week range, is currently yielding 3.6%, which, by the way, they've grown that dividend every single year for like the past decade or so when you adjust for the stock split. So it's a pretty safe dividend as well, and it's one that I do enjoy owning myself. Okay, now if none of those stocks have appealed to you yet, then how about a dividend king? Meaning that this company has increased their dividends for 50 years in a row at least. And this is also a dividend king that I happen to own myself as well. And that is 3M, ticker symbol MMM, which is a gigantic company selling very popular brands like Post-it notes, Scotch tape, various other household brands, different auto care and industrial products, and even health and safety products, including several types of face masks like the ones that have become, super popular during the global health crisis, including the higher end N95 ones as well. Financially, though, 3M's products are heavily exposed to the struggling macroeconomy, and the rise of lawsuits against some of their products have only frightened investors even more into selling out of the stock, despite the fact that sales are actually expected to recover by close to 10% this year after having two relatively down years in 2019 and 2020. Still, the stock is currently down over 30% from its 2018 highs, leaving the dividend yield at over 3.3% with over 60 years of consecutive growth. 3M has its issues and it's more of a long-term turnaround play than anything else, but that dividend is just way too attractive to ignore, and it helps to, greatly make up for some of the other issues that I think they have. All right, guys. Now, if 3M is not a good enough dividend king for you, or if you think that they're just too risky to gamble on, then I'd like to throw in Johnson & Johnson, ticker symbol J&J, for your consideration. Now, this one I actually do not own yet, and I honestly have no good reason for that because it's a stock that I absolutely believe in long term. I should have been buying it, honestly, a long time ago already. But they're a very solid, very large company. They're the company behind Band-Aids, Tylenol, Motrin, Benadryl, Listerine, different lotions, powders, all kinds of pharmaceuticals, different medical devices. The list goes on, and they've really just become a household staple brand at this point. Not to mention that their V-Shot for the pepperoni brought in over $500 million just in the last quarter alone, while their company-wide revenue is expected to climb by over 14% this year, despite already doing pretty close to $100 billion in total sales. Massive company we're talking about here. Unfortunately, like 3M, they've also faced numerous lawsuits in recent years, and it's really hurt their reputation and led to the stock price being very suppressed over that time. In fact, they're only up by less than 50% over the past 5 years and have even been a bit shaky recently after announcing that they will be splitting up the company into two separate ones to streamline their different businesses and be able to focus on higher growth initiatives. Not to worry though, both companies will pay a dividend equal to where it is right now, and the split up will only give you as an investor the choice of what you want to hold on to or get rid of going forward. Speaking of which, that dividend currently yields over 2.5% despite having already been grown every single year for almost 6 decades in a row. Again, like 3M, J&J has some issues and their reputation has taken many hits over the years, but just from purely an investment kind of standpoint, I think right now and throughout 2022, it's going to be a good time to be picking up this long-term dividend stock, even with the split up that I actually think will, help them, or at least just be giving you more choice and more kind of freedom with what you want to do as an investor with your stock. All right, guys. Now, if you feel that all the previous stocks didn't have very large yields, then for the last two stocks, I want to throw in a couple of significantly higher yielding dividend stocks. And for the first one, we're going to have to go back to a biotech pharmaceutical and one that really stands out in terms of a yield above many of their competitors, and that is AbbVie, ticker symbol ABBV, who is also a stock that I happen to own myself as well. Now, speaking of that yield, despite this stock trading at a record high, they actually had a crash around 2018 and 2019, which kept the stock suppressed more so than it otherwise would be if it hadn't crashed, which was mostly due to their gigantic $63 billion acquisition of Allergan that most analysts on Wall Street hated at the time. But it ultimately proved to be a huge success for them, as it has now helped them diversify for future growth and is resulting in very large growth spurts of 38% and 23% in 2020 and 2021 respectively, with a gigantic pipeline across various areas of research to go along with it. And again, because of the earlier crash, their stock is actually still yielding a dividend of about 4.5% with a low payout ratio and close to a 20% growth rate, which is huge growth for a dividend that has been grown every single year for almost 50 years in a row. That's a huge, dividend growth history there. And I just add it all up, and I think despite the record high stock price, I still think AbbVie is one of the best dividend options out there. Okay, now finally, the last dividend stock that I will go with today to give us a larger yield, that's gotta be Verizon, ticker symbol VZ. And the reason is just very simple. Now, the stock has fallen by close to 20% from its 52-week high to the lowest part of that range, and it hasn't even gone up over the past 5 years, leaving their dividend super attractive at over 5%, which is essentially, the highest level that it's really been in years. Now, that's not to say that anyone should just kind of run out and buy this stock. The biggest gripe I think that investors have with Verizon is their lack of growth, which is a very valid concern. According to Pew Research, 97% of Americans already own a cell phone, and considering that Verizon is usually the number one or number two market leader in wireless, that just doesn't leave a whole lot of room for growth, other than if you have the population in general growing, or if they increase prices, or maybe, smartphone upgrades increase, or you're just kind of left to steal market share from competitors. But that's something that is very difficult to do in such an already well-established and heavily saturated market. But here's the thing, you're not really investing in Verizon for its growth. The company brings in over $130 billion in revenue, over $40 billion in operating cash flow. They consistently rank as number one in customer service and network quality for wireless, and are now even starting to do it for internet as well. And even if the stock price doesn't move at all, you still get that 5% plus dividend a year, which is all you should really be thinking about anyway. So just for that dividend alone, I do still think that Verizon is a good buy at today's prices, and especially if you're looking for that higher yield that can sometimes be hard to find in this market. But there you have it, guys. Those are my top 7 picks for dividend stocks for 2022 and beyond for the long term. These are my favorite as of right now, but let me know what you guys think down below. Are there any dividend stocks that you would have liked to have seen on the list? Let me know, because I can make future videos on those. Also, of course, anything can change over time. My opinions can sometimes change, but I will always make update videos for you guys, so make sure you're subscribed for all of that future content. And I really do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you're all doing well out there. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.